Good morning 10th class. We are going to continue the same chapter in history, that is nationalism in India. Today we will talk about the limits of the civil disobedience movement. Yesterday in the previous video we had discussed about the civil disobedience movement, what were the causes of the civil disobedience movement, who were the participants in the civil disobedience movement, what were their selfish goals to participate in the civil disobedience movement. Now today we will talk about the limits of the civil disobedience movement. Okay. The concept of Swaraj did not stir all social groups for action. Then there were various social groups who didn't participate in the civil disobedience movement with that enthusiasm, and as a result the civil disobedience movement was not very successful. One such group was the group so-called untouchables, who from their third decade of the 20th century began to call themselves as Dalits. So Dalits organizations and Dalits did not actively participate in the civil disobedience movement. As a result, their participation was less because they were not treated equally from the 20th century. In the 20th century, especially the Hindu society was divided into various types of varnas, and those varnas had the distinction on the basis of their duties which were performed by them. The Brahmanas, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas and the Shudras, and the untouchables were considered as Shudras, and they were not equally treated. That is why they feel themselves oppressed, and they coined a term for them. That term was known as Dalits. Okay. For a long time, the Congress leaders had ignored the Dalits because they feared that Sanatanis, the conservative high caste Hindus, would be offended. Because most of the Congress was dominated by the Sanatanis. Sanatanis, who were the Sanatanis? Sanatanis were high caste Hindus. The Hindus, especially a major part of the Congress was dominated by Brahmins. And Brahmins didn't allow the Dalits to be a part of the Congress. That is why many of the Congress leaders didn't allow the Dalits to be a part of the Congress, because they don't want that the Brahmins should be deprived, or the Brahmins to be feared. Okay? Or they didn't wanted them to be offended. Mahatma Gandhi declared that India would not attain Swaraj if untouchability would not Mahatma Gandhi didn't want that untouchability should be there, because untouchability could lead to the discrimination in the society, and it could lead to the division in the society, and if the society was not united, we could not attain Swaraj. Okay? Therefore, he called untouchables as Harijans, or the children of God. Gandhiji conducted an intensive tour of the Harijan dominated areas. He travelled over 20,000 kilometers. Gandhiji took an extensive tour of the Harijan dominated areas, collecting money for the recently found Harijan Seva Sangh. Harijan Seva Sangh was an organization which was established by Mahatma Gandhi for the betterment of the Dalits. Harijan Seva Sangh. This was the organization which was made by Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, for the removal of untouchability in all its forms. He also argued that untouchability as practice had no sanction in the Hindu Shastras. No scriptures in the Hindu religion is there who talks about untouchability. No Hindu scriptures is talking about untouchability. He believed that once untouchability is removed, it will be easy to bring all the Indians together, because he wanted that without the unity of the country we could not attain Swaraj, and if the untouchability was not removed from the Indian soil, then it would not be able to attain Swaraj at any cost. Gandhiji's Harijan campaign included a program of reforms like promoting education, cleanliness and hygiene among the Harijans. He persuaded upper caste Hindus to change their attitudes towards untouchability. Mahatma Gandhi wanted the upper caste Hindus change their attitude, because they considered untouchables as untouchables. They didn't want to touch them. They treated them as inferior. They treated them as subhumans. So such type of ideology was not right for the attainment of the Swaraj, because without unity of the country, the Swaraj would be not possible. So Mahatma Gandhi wanted that the Harijans should be treated equally by the upper caste Hindus. So he asked the upper caste Hindus to change their attitude towards the untouchables. Many Dalit leaders were keen on different political solutions to the problems of the community. Many Dalit leaders wanted different solutions to the problems of the community. They demanded reserved seats in the education institutions and separate electorates. Such type of demands prevailed in many, especially the Depressed Classes Association, which was established by Depressed Classes Association was established by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and that particular organization demanded reservation for the Dalits in the education institutions. Reservation for Dalits in education institutions, as well as separate electorates for them. So what does separate electorate means? Separate electorate means that the Dalits would be electing the Dalits only. No other caste could vote for Dalits. Okay? The Dalits would have their separate leaders, and those separate leaders would be chosen by Dalits only. That is the meaning of the separate electorates. Such type of separate electorates also was accepted by the British government in 1907 on the advice of the Muslim League, in which the Muslims were provided with the separate electorates, especially in the Bengal presidency. Okay. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, who had organized Dalits into Depressed Classes Association in 1930, came into the contact with Mahatma Gandhi in the second roundtable conference. I told you yesterday that in the second roundtable conference, which was held in London in 1931, in that particular second roundtable conference, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar clashed with Mahatma Gandhi on the issue of separate electorates. In that particular roundtable conference, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar asked the British government for the separate electorates for the Dalits, because he wanted the betterment of the Dalits, because the Dalits were deprived of their equal opportunities in the past history in India. Okay, because of the Varna system which was there in the Hindu society. Gandhiji began a fast into that. Gandhiji never wanted the division of the society on the basis of caste. Such type of things, if such types of things were accepted, separate electorates were accepted, such type of things would lead to the division of the society in India, or the discrimination of the people within themselves. He never wanted such type of things. Therefore, Gandhiji started a fast unto death. Okay. Gandhi believed that separate electorates would ensure untouchables remain untouchables in perpetuity. Because Gandhiji wanted equality in society, and such type of things would lead them to be considered as another type of community, and he wanted them to be mingled into a single society. Okay. However, Ambedkar accepted Gandhiji's position, and the result was the Pune Pact of September 1930. But Dr. Ambedkar respected Mahatma Gandhi's view, and later on he accepted Mahatma Gandhi's view, and a pact was signed between Mahatma Gandhi and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and that pact was known as the Pune Pact, because it was signed in the city of Pune in Maharashtra. Okay. However, Ambedkar accepted Gandhi's position, and result was the Pune Pact of September 1932. It was decided that seats would be reserved for the elected classes in the central and provincial legislative councils, but they were to be voted by general electorates. What was decided? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar also asked Mahatma Gandhi to have something in his favor. He wanted Mahatma Gandhi to accept some of the provisions of the separate of the provisions of the Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, which acceptance of the reserved seats, acceptance of reserved seats in the Legislative Council, but they were being voted by the general electorates. That means there were no separate electorates. All the Dalit leaders would be given a reserved seat, and that particular Dalit leader would be elected by every individual living in that particular constituency. Some Muslim political organizations did not give their wholehearted support and cooperation to the civil disobedience movement. Some Muslim organizations didn't give the whole support to the civil disobedience movement because of the failure of the Khilafat movement. The Khilafat movement was, after the end of the non-cooperation Khilafat movement, a large section of Muslims were alienated from the Congress. Because of the failure of the Khilafat movement, many Muslims were alienated from the Congress. As relationship between the Hindus and the Muslims deteriorated, each community organized religious processions. Now Hindus and Muslims were separately organizing religious processions, and they wanted the support of their community separately. Separately they were fighting for the independence of the country, which was not right. Okay. These events widened the gulf between the Hindus and the Muslims. The Congress came to visibly associate with the Hindu religious nationalist groups like Hindu Mahasabha. Why Muslims didn't have the equal participation in the civil disobedience movement? Because they thought that the Congress was largely dominated by organizations like Hindu Mahasabha. Therefore, it is not possible for the Muslims to remain a part of the Congress, because many of the Hindu ideologies are only accepted in the Congress. That is why Muslims thought that it is not easy for us to be a part of the Congress. Okay. The Congress and the Muslim League made efforts to conclude an alliance, and in 1927 it appeared that such a unity could be forced. But Congress wanted unity, and therefore they asked Muslim League to become united, and asked the leader of the Muslim League, that was Muhammad Ali Jinnah, one of the leaders of the Muslim League, was willing to give up the demand of the separate electorates. Muhammad Ali Jinnah accepted the demand of the Congress and also accepted to give up the demand of the separate electorates, but there were some conditions. If the Muslims were assured the reserved seats in the Central Assembly, if the Muslims were given the reserved seats in the Central Assembly and representation in proportion to their population in Muslim dominated provinces, and representation in proportion to their Muslim dominated provinces. In those areas where the Muslims were in larger numbers, in those particular areas Muslims should have been given the larger representation, and they would also have been given the more seats in the Central Assembly. These were the two demands which was put forward by Muhammad Ali Jinnah, and these two demands were not accepted by Congress. What was the reason why these demands were not accepted? Unfortunately, all the hopes disappeared when Mr. Jaikar of Hindu Mahasabha strongly opposed efforts at the compromise. And Mr. Jaikar was right. Why Mr. Jaikar was right? Because if the Muslims were given the separate electorates, same type of things would be there. It would lead to the, you can say that, discrimination among the Hindus and Muslims. It would lead to the disunity in the country. So such type of things could not be accepted by Congress. Okay, because Congress wanted unity, Congress wanted a united mass struggle, and it could not happen with if the Muslims are separate from the civil disobedience. Okay. When the civil disobedience movement started, there was an atmosphere of suspicion and distrust. Muslims could not respond to the united struggle. Muslims never actively participated in the movement. Many Muslim leaders were concerned that the status of the Muslims as a minority within India. They considered that Muslims were only a minority in India. They could not be treated equally in the future independent India. So they started demanding the separate state for them. The Muslims feared that they would be submerged in the domination of the Hindu majority. In 1930, Sir Muhammad Iqbal, as president of the Muslim League, reiterated the importance of the separate electorates for the Muslims as an important safeguard for the minority political interest. And in 1930, Sir Muhammad Iqbal, at that time was the president of the Muslim League, demanded separate electorates as the only solution for the Muslim minorities in India. What he said? He said, I have no hesitation in declaring that if the principle of that Indian Muslim is entitled to full and free development on the lines of his own culture and tradition, his own homeland is recognized on the basis of permanent communal settlement. That means he wanted that on the basis of his community, he should be given the freedom to develop his own culture in this particular country if he wants to be a part of this country, and if he is contributing to the development of the nation, and if he is contributing, and if this particular community is contributing for the freedom of the country, so this particular community should be given the equal opportunity to develop their culture, to have their faith in their religion, and should not be dominated by any type of majority community in the upcoming years. So such type of demands were put forward by Muhammad Iqbal. Communism in its highest aspect, then he further said, it is indispensable formation of a harmonious whole in a country. और वो ये समझते थे कि इस तरह की कंट्री फॉर्म नहीं हो सकती, हार्मोनियस कंट्री फॉर्म नहीं हो सकती. The principle of European democracy cannot be applied to India without recognizing the fact of communal groups. इंडिया में कम्युनल ग्रुप्स की जो भी ज़रूरतें हैं उसको दरकिनार करके हम किसी भी देश की कल्पना नहीं कर सकते. The Muslim demanded for the creation of a Muslim India within India is therefore perfectly justified. अब मुस्लिम इंडिया एक अलग कंट्री की डिमांड कर रहे हैं, ठीक है. और हिंदूज ये बिलीव करते हैं कि देयर इज ओनली वन कंट्री, वन नेशन, एंड दैट इज यूनाइटेड, and all communities are part of the nation. Okay, such a state of things however does not exist. India is a land full of racial religious variety. India एक ऐसा लैंड है जहाँ पे जाति और धर्म की वैरायटी और विविधता पाई जाती है. Add to this general economic inferiority of the Muslims, their enormous debt, especially the Punjab and insufficient majority in some of the provinces. तो क्योंकि मुस्लिम्स बहुत सारे प्रोविंसेस में डोमिनेट करते थे, तो ये इस तरह की थिंग्स पॉसिबल नहीं है कि वो किसी जगह पर किसी मेजॉरिटी कम्युनिटी के अंडर रहना एक्सेप्ट कर लें. द सेंस ऑफ कलेक्टिव बिलोंगिंग. अब हम लोग बात करने जा रहे हैं सेंस ऑफ कलेक्टिव बिलोंगिंग, ठीक है. Nationalism is people's sense of belonging to a nation. It also includes feelings of loyalty to the nation. Loyalty to the nation. Nationalism, what does nationalism means? Being loyal to the nation, doing anything which is there for the nation. Pride in its culture. You have to feel proud for your culture. And history, in many cases, a desire for independence. Nationalism has a desire for independence. The effects of the nationalism can be both good and bad. जो नेशनलिज्म के रिजल्ट्स हो सकते हैं वो अच्छे भी हो सकते हैं. अगर बहुत ज़्यादा नेशनलिज्म हो जाता है तो कभी बुरे रिजल्ट हो जाते हैं, जैसा कि नाजी सोसाइटी में पिछले साल आपने पढ़ा था कि वहाँ पे ऐसे हो गए थे रिजल्ट्स. नाजी सोसाइटी में ज़रूरत से ज़्यादा ओवर नेशनलिज्म was there. That is why they had a feeling of the nationalism was proved to be a disastrous for the country at that particular time. Okay. History and fiction, folklore and songs, popular prints and symbols all play an important role in the making of the nationalism. Nationalism could not be created without the use of various types of sources like folklore, ballads, songs. Such type of things are needed. For example, we had a song which was there during the time of Indian independence movement, that was Vande Mataram. It brought a feeling of nationalism among them. Okay. Tricolor was used. National flag also brought a feeling of nationalism among the people of the country. And various types of female figures were also used, like Bharat Mata. That also created the feeling of nationalism. In 20th century, India came to be loosely associated with the image of Bharat Mata. The image was first created by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. In 1870, he wrote Vande Mataram, which was later included in the book Anand Mat. Anand Mat was written by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, and that particular book, a song was composed by him in Sanskrit. That song was known as Vande Mataram, Hail the Motherland. Okay. song was used in the Swadeshi movement in Bengal. Similarly, Rabindranath Tagore painted his painting of Bharat Mata. Bharat Mata painting was painted by Rabindranath Tagore. In his portrait, Bharat Mata is shown as a serene and calm, spiritual and divine. In his portrait, he had shown that Bharat Mata is very divine in nature. Bharat Mata was shown as a mother figure spreading knowledge, food and clothing. Bharat Mata is spreading knowledge, food and clothing. Later, various images of Bharat Mata were printed. For example, the painting of Bharat Mata with a Trishul standing beside a lion. This image is there in your book. You can see the image. Both symbols of power and authority. This symbol is both the images of Bharat Mata, whether it was painted by Rabindranath Tagore and the other painters. All the paintings of Bharat Mata had the feeling of power and authority. Ideas of nationalism also developed from movement to revive old folk laws. In Bengal, Rabindranath Tagore himself collected nursery rhymes and folk tales. Natesha Shastri published a 4-volume collection of Tamil folk tales. बहुत सारे जो भी राइटर्स थे उन्होंने नेशनलिज्म की फीलिंग जगाने के लिए बहुत सारी बुक्स उन्होंने लिखी. रविन्द्रनाथ टैगोर ने लिखी, नतेशा शास्त्री ने साउथ इंडिया में लिखी. During the Swadeshi movement in Bengal, a tricolor flag, red, green and yellow was designed. In the starting, red, green and yellow tricolor was designed. In 1921, Gandhiji also designed a tricolor flag, red, green and white, and a spinning wheel in the red, green and white. A tricolor was designed by Mahatma Gandhi, in which there was a wheel in between, the charkha was in between, carrying the idea of self-help. You have to help yourself. That means reinterpretation of history. History was reinterpreted to develop the feeling of nationalism. The British saw India as a backward and uncivilized country. Macaulay, writing his minute in 1835 about education, wrote a single shelf of good English books was what the whole literature of the East. मतलब मैकॉले जो थे वो ईस्ट की बुक्स को कुछ नहीं समझते थे, इसलिए उन्होंने कहा था कि एक छोटा सा शेल्फ अगर इंग्लिश बुक्स का होगा तो वो भारत की सारे लिटरेचर से ज़्यादा महान. Indian began looking at the past. They wrote about glorious developments in the art and architecture, religion, culture, science and mathematics. अगर आप अपने कल्चर से जुड़ते हैं तो आपके अंदर फीलिंग ऑफ नेशनलिज्म ज़्यादा जगती है. इसीलिए जो भी राइटर्स थे उस टाइम पे, इंडियन राइटर्स थे, उन्होंने अपने पास्ट कल्चर को रिकनेक्ट करने की कोशिश की और ये दिखाया कि हमारा पास्ट कल्चर, पास्ट लिटरेचर और पास्ट आर्किटेक्चर और साइंस हमारा कितना महान था. हम लोगों ने कितनी सारी चीज़ें बहुत पहले ही पता कर ली थी. तो इससे इंडियन हिस्ट्री पे लोगों को गर्व हुआ और इंडिया के लिए वो फीलिंग ऑफ नेशनलिज्म उनके अंदर जागृत हुई. इसलिए रीइंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ हिस्ट्री बहुत ज़रूरी है, क्योंकि बहुत सारे लोग जो हिस्ट्री है वो अपने हिसाब से क्लासीफाई कर देते हैं. जैसे कि 8th क्लास में हमने पढ़ा होगा, जेम्स मिल ने हिस्ट्री को क्लासीफाई किया था ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ रिलीजन्स. इंडियन हिस्ट्री को स्पेशली द ब्रिटिश इंडियन हिस्ट्री ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ रिलीजन. ठीक, तो उनके अनुसार जो ब्रिटिशर से पहले का पीरियड था वो एक हिंदू पीरियड, एक मुस्लिम पीरियड और एक क्रिश्चियनिटी वाला या ब्रिटिश पीरियड. तो उन्होंने रिलीजन के नाम पे एक तरह से डिवीजन क्रिएट करने की कोशिश की सोसाइटी में. इस तरह की रीइंटरप्रिटेशन हिस्ट्री की थी. तो ज़रूरी ये भी है कि अगर हमें नेशनलिज्म अपने लोगों के अंदर जगाना है तो हमें अपनी हिस्ट्री को इस तरह से उनके सामने प्रेजेंट करना होगा जो हमारे कल्चर के ग्रेटनेस को रिप्रेजेंट कर सके, ताकि लोगों के अंदर वो कनेक्ट कर सकें अपने देश से, अपने देश की फीलिंग से कनेक्ट कर सकें. ठीक है. और सबसे बड़े हमारे यहाँ पे ये है कि हमारे जो फीलिंग ऑफ नॉन वायलेंस है वो सबसे बड़ी एक हमारी यूएसपी हमारी हिस्ट्री की. इससे ये साबित तो होता है कि इंडिया में जो भी नेशनल मूवमेंट हुआ है उसमें मेनली नॉन वायलेंट मूवमेंट हुआ. यानी इंडियंस हमेशा नॉन वायलेंट रहे हैं. इंडिया ने कभी किसी के खिलाफ हिंसा नहीं की. सबसे बड़ी महानता भारत की यही. ठीक है. तो द चैप्टर इज ओवर हियर, सो वी विल study the next chapter. I will send you the PDF of this chapter and you have to do this. Thank you, class.